We are live in Grow Studios. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Grow Studios. Just in case you don't know, it's interactive. You can drop comments into the chat, and Anthony will take those comments and flag some of them up. We've got a hashtag as well, which is hashtag Grow Hackney Tours as well. And there's going to be a Q&A afterwards as well. So hopefully we're going to do enough to generate some ideas, stimulate you a little bit tonight, and maybe we'll get some ideas flowering and sprouting, and you'll have your own opinion, your own views, and this will become some sort of living, breathing, live piece of work. Yeah. As you can see, we are absolutely in the thick of it. This is where the work gets done. Yeah, all quiet now. Everyone's gone home for the day. Maybe just while we're waiting to start fully, wait for a few more people to join us online. I don't know if everyone's been inside an art studio before. It was an education for me. I'll maybe talk a little bit about my own journey. This was all new. I didn't know who artists were, didn't know any. So fascinating to see inside these massive complexes of buildings, the white walls. This is where it all happens. This is where the light gets in. This is where the creativity finds its outlet, finds its channel. And we're going to talk about that and its importance in places like Hackney Wick tonight. So I don't know, maybe you're an artist. Maybe you don't know what an artist is or how to define them, and I don't, to be honest. I'm going to be asking lots of questions tonight. I'm not going to be so hot on the answers, and that's where you guys come in. Hopefully we'll do some group processing together. In the control room, we've got Anthony, the behind-the-scenes expert, part of Grow Studios, and as soon as he gives me the nod, thinks we're at about the right number of people, everyone's pretty much here. Of course, these days, COVID, you can't use the excuse of the tube. Oh, I'm so sorry, mate, Northern Line. Oh, yeah. We don't have that excuse anymore. We've got new ones. It's the internet. The dog ate my Wi-Fi, all that kind of thing. And this is a bit of an experiment tonight, which is pretty good. It's kind of like an excuse for me, you know. If it's not particularly interesting, doesn't go particularly well, it's an experiment, you know. We're learning. So we're here in the heart of Hackney Wick, Grow Studios. Looking up. Maybe you've been here for Hackney Wicked, actually. Hackney Wicked Open Studios, always a very interesting time. A chance to see this place in a very different light. Because the trick with Hackney Wick is to find out what's behind the closed doors. What's going on? And I remember the first time I came here. So, what's the fuss about Hackney Wick? It's an industrial estate, nothing going on. Rainy day, walk through it, unimpressed. But of course, you got to open those doors and you got to look behind them. So I've got the signal there from Anthony. We are going to head out into Hackney Wick. I'll take the camera focus off me to put it on the Wick. In fact, let's do that now. Okay, take a deep breath. We're going out there. So we'll have about 45 minutes of me showing us around Hackney Wick. And then we've got a couple of guests. We're going to have some very interesting things to say. This is the corridor of uncertainty. I'm not quite sure how the next 45 minutes is going to go. We've washed our hands, of course. We're COVID sensible. I'm going to head outside into the Wick. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Ah, fresh air. Fresh air. Yeah. So here's our first little suggestion. We might be somewhere a little bit different. If you've been to Berlin, you'll get the references. This is something I created because I really felt when I came here, well, I felt like I didn't have to go to Berlin anymore because I'd found something in London that meant I didn't need to go to Berlin. And it feels like a special zone. When you come to Hackney Wick, I still get that feeling, even though it's changed a lot, I still get that feeling I've entered into some kind of special zone. So this is the yard, or one of the yards. This is the main yard. Some interesting stuff here, but I'm going to talk about this stuff when we come back because we've got a lot to see. Got a lot to see. Hackney Wick. So this is not going to be a conventional tour, guys. It's not going to be a set of dates and, oh, you know, this used to be that and that used to be this, because we're going to talk about the role of the arts. And I'm very happy to be here tonight. Thank you so much to the guys at Grow who've made this all happen, and the Arts Council. And this happened because of relationships. I don't, without sounding prissy, I don't work with anyone, and neither did Grow. There's a lot of kind of, you know, there's a lot of BS around here. People want a slice of the cool. They want to commodify it and then sell it back to you for a lot of money. So you've got to kind of have your BS radar a little bit turned on. But these good guys doing good stuff, like Stour Space as well, another Hackney Wick stalwart. So we've come together to do this alternative tour, starting in Main Yard of the Wick, place changing all the time. Is it ruined? Oh, mate, you should have been here 15 years ago. That's when it went downhill. No, Hackney Wick went 10 years ago. No, it's 5 years. No, it's still cool. I'm not going to give you the answers because it all depends who you speak to. And this is, as we look at some great street art from Zabu, and the street art's a barometer of the area. So as the street art becomes, you know, as done by more famous people, Dale Grimshaw there with his reference to the people of West Papua and their genocide alleged by the Indonesian government, Martin Ron up there as well. It's a barometer of how the area is changing. And I'm going to give you a necessarily partisan view because I'm just one guy. I've been hanging out here for 10 years. I lived the warehouse life for 10 years, but it's one person's partial view. Yes, I'm going to check my privilege, of course, at the start and acknowledge that. But hopefully, we're going to give you an idea over the next 45 minutes of the importance of places like Hackney Wick in London, and also the importance of the arts as well. The place, the street art, I love street art. I'll tell you why. Because it enables conversations that are otherwise a little bit difficult. I started in conventional tourism, and you know, people have a certain expectation of London. Want to see where does the Queen live, do the guard, all that sort of thing. Street art enables conversations, and there have been some great, not so much on here because this has just been buffed. If you're a graffiti artist or a street artist, you feel the buff. This has just been buffed, so there's not a lot on here, but there's been some fantastic, some very dry, somewhat sarcastic graffiti works over here, asking about, well, who is this new Hackney Wick for? What's it all about? Enabling, you know, the sort of things you don't get in brochures and the market speak. The people, you know, in the presentations about why you should buy this or why you should buy that. As we look at Thierry Noir, a guy who painted the Berlin Wall, and he's a big name in street art. So when you see him here, that was like, okay, this area is really starting to change, isn't it? So the street art, living canvas here in Hackney Wick, it'll be interesting to see how that survives when everything gets quite expensive. How will people feel about graffiti and street art? Will it still be freedom of expression, or will it be perceived as vandalism? And people want to clamp down on it. I'm taking you over here for a reason, by the way. There's method in this madness. But the street art conversations, this is the role of the arts, right? To enable us to have conversations about things that, you know, otherwise go unsaid. So we've got a few questions tonight. And these are the sort of things that I hope people will respond to. Assuming there's anyone there, of course, I can't hear anything, so. Who is Hackney Wick for? Where do ideas come from? I've been talking to some people about sustainability and environmentalism and the overlap today with the arts, about how these ideas permeate into our society. Where do they come from? How do they filter in? Active or passive? Active creation or passive consumption? Hackney Wick has very much been a place of active creation. Maybe it was designing the warehouse you're living in, building a mezzanine. I built my own bed out of pallets. If you know me, you'll know that's quite a big thing for me. Other people design whole buildings, created mini factories, did their art, live work, absolutely crucial here, live work, in making possible an environment where people could afford to practice their art. Because with the best will in the world, if you're working 60 hours a week, just a little situationist reference there, Society of the Spectacle, if you're working 60 hours a week just to put a roof over your head, how are you going to have the bandwidth for art? How are you going to have the time to sit back and wait for ideas to come to you? The Clash famously said the dole was really important for them, gave them the time, gave them the space to think, and look what they produced. There's the hashtag, grow Hackney Tours. If you've got a view, an opinion, a critique, you want to say something, I missed something out, and I will miss something out. How can you condense 10 years in Hackney Wick into 45 minutes? Look at the architecture. The architecture is starting to change because we're moving over. We're going over there, past the Eton Mission Rowing Club in 1934. The history here is incredible. We're on top of Victorian factories. And there's future East London, the glass, the steel, the cranes that when people talk about austerity and shortage of money in the economy, and yet the cranes constantly eating up the sky. You might have seen the documentary Under the Cranes by Michael Rosen's partner. You might have seen my stencil, which I played with here. You might have seen Pete Bennett from Grow. You might have seen his t-shirts with the cranes on the front. So this is a border. This is a transition into, in a way, there's old Hackney Wick with its street there that used to be Prince's. There's the old boathouse. And here's the new future. Maybe you can hear the noise of the bars behind me. This is post-Olympic London. 10,000 new homes were originally planned. Hope for it to be a fusion between tech, maker culture, enterprise, and creativity of Hackney Wick. Although, an interesting point about Hackney Wick, and about artists, and when I use that word, I use it so loosely. Who's an artist and who's not? And it developed organically. Just some very wise estate agents apparently had a plan to regenerate the area and raise the land value, but people came in and largely created stuff themselves. And they created a village. It's pretty cool. People would say, you'd walk around in the street with someone, and then someone else would say, hey, I'll see you at your show on Thursday, man. Yeah, great, I'll see you at yours. And they supported each other. There's even a shed that was that a guy called Richard made, and he's an architect, and it went around the village, and people took turns carrying it. And inside, you could see the planning applications. So he said, well, who's got the time to go to the town hall and look at planning applications? I'm going to take planning to the people. Try planning sexy. So here's another version of the Wick. Living on a boat, it's a lot of fun, it's pretty cool. It's also a symptom of the housing crisis. People who can't afford flats. So there's a real question there. Who is the new East London for? And I did a walk for University on this subject, and people had a lot to say. And they had a lot of questions, and some of them did feel like, I'm not really sure this is for me or aimed at me, or, you know, should I be here? Am I wanted? Now, whatever you think about that, and that's going to depend on so many things, your politics, your experience. The arts in places like Grow, places like Stour Space, enable us to have a space where we can talk about these things. They enable us to have the tools to articulate our concerns. They give us the language. They give us the validation sometimes to know, for example, that we're not the first person to have these concerns. Silos, they call it the silo effect in business, don't they? People are in their little boxes on their screens, and this is something that COVID is potentially only going to exacerbate. And they think it's just me. Am I the only one that's kind of having a massive head funk this year? Am I the only one that thinks that you can't make sense of anything that's happening in the world right now? And the arts are a way for us, and art spaces are a way for us to build solidarity, to make connections, to come together in a safe space where we can play. And play is recognized as being a way that we try out new ideas and we experiment. There's a school over there. How will we live in the future? Really important thing for me in Hackney Wick has been to watch a space be created where people could try out different things. It was important in my own creative development. And of course, I'm no great shakes. I'm no Picasso. But who says that creativity is just about oil and canvas? Jo Hughes, who ran Mother Studios, she'll tell you that creativity is many things. It's how you live your life. It's how you arrange your space. It's how you come up with solutions to problems. It has many, many forms. And I came here and I didn't know any artists. I didn't know what they did. They weren't people like me. It was almost as if, I had the idea that they wear uniforms and, oh yeah, well, I don't know, you go to art school and then you get your certificate. And then you're an artist. And I came here and I found that, oh, actually, you know what? They're just people, just like me. And they were very down to earth and they welcomed me in and they made suggestions. And then I found out, oh, these people are articulating the same concerns that I have about the world, deconstructing it, poking it, maybe finding out that it's not quite what it said on the tin. This is what they told me at school. This is the brochure, right? 2.3 children, isolated nuclear family, get a career, all that kind of thing. One size, look at that, it's that beautiful glitter ball. One size does not fit all. And there's Grow over there with its excellent patio. So I came here, and these people, they, I guess they sort of welcomed me in. They showed me their art. They showed me their spaces. They showed me their thinking processes. And it accelerated and catalyzed some things that were already going on in my own mind. They helped me to get the language and the tools to dissect the bizarre world that we find ourselves in. And this year, it's only got more bizarre with COVID, fake news, etc., etc. And so the tools of critical thinking, the ability to deconstruct, to dissect, and then to articulate some kind of view about that. Wicked is more important than ever. We're underneath. This is a nice little metaphor for what I like to do on a tour, is to show people the nuts and bolts, the things that you don't normally see, the things that underpin what's going on. So if you think of, and I must credit Daisy Eris Campbell for this idea, if you think of somewhere like Grow and the art spaces as the mushroom, the visible manifestation of creativity, then what you don't see is the complex web, the mycelium, the rhizome, the web of relationships and characters and contacts that have made this possible, that have fostered this ecosystem, which I believe comes from the Greek meaning home, eco, this ecosystem where all of this was possible. This wall is great. It's just under the power station. The newly revamped transport system, a result of the Olympics. Oh no, it wasn't. We were doing it anyway. Okay, but it's a good thing though, right? Brings people. No, it's not. Brings too many people in, but it lets you go somewhere else. Everything's a little bit controversial. Where would you get anything like this? Where would you get this? Anywhere else? There are always at least two views on everything, because we look at some of the older surviving street art on this bit, which is Burning Candy Crew, Sweet Tooth, although money has obscured Sweet Tooth. There you go. Stay High, I love that one. If you've been here in 2012, well, you couldn't have actually during the Olympics, because this towpath, it was sealed off, and this path was patrolled by soldiers. That was the whole G4S fiasco when they didn't have enough people. Look, there's the new Hackney Wick. When Crate came in, that was the first sign that the area was changing. A pizzeria in Hackney Wick. I can remember when that was a novelty. Shocked. Like, wow, a pizzeria here. Yeah, they had squaddies here. There was an electric fence there. It was 18,000 volts. I read somewhere. And this was the perimeter. It really was. It was the perimeter geographically between two worlds. It was also symbolically a boundary. Up here on this bridge, there was a checkpoint. Hackney Wick felt a little bit like East Berlin. There was space. The rules were, well, almost non-existent. You could play, you could party, you could create. And it occurred to me the other day that perhaps what this gave us with its low rent, what it gave us with its low rent was maybe an insight into the sort of thing that UBI could provide. Here's Sweet Tooth again. He's a bit of a character. If you've met him, you'll know the distinctive pink gums. It was an insight into what UBI would be like. Maybe with UBI, we'd all have the chance to play a little bit, do some work, enough work to, get by, but not so much that left you drained and exhausted. Hector Street out there, and if you can see it on top of the white building, which was white building is a part of cultural regeneration. Not my words, that's a thing. And here's the thing about, so it's funny, with the arts in Hackney Wick, sometimes I think this stuff can sound a bit fluffy, and then I wonder, do we not have the right words? Do we need new words? Oh, there's a rower going through. Or do we need to get better at using those words? But investors and business people have no problem at all in marketizing all of this stuff and selling it to people in Singapore. You need a slice of this. You should be here. Get in while you can. So maybe it's about context. Perhaps the arts need to get better at articulating its role. The Arts Council, obviously, of course, they're biased, but they've just produced a big research document talking about how having access to cultural events, the sort of things that happen in these spaces here, how these things are linked to improved well-being and mental health. Or, as some say, as my friend and colleague Sarah Scarsbrook, the academic who wrote about artists as gentrifier and was one of my entry portals at Hackney Wick, she says, is that what we want to avoid? Should art be led down that path of having to produce pie charts and spreadsheets? In the COVID era, is art's role to be some kind of social worker, or should artists be free, and again using that word in a very loose sense, to produce what they want, as opposed to having an economic function? And there's some graffiti on that bridge. It's a little bit far away, but it says, "Open your soul, not your eyes." And under this bridge here is where maybe you saw the graffiti by Bill Drummond, ex of the KLF, that said, "Imagine one day you woke up and all the music had disappeared." And some of the stuff here in Hackney Wick is disappearing. There's Fish Island over there. Good, bad, indifferent, a tragedy, natural. People divide. Some people tell you, hey, move on, man. Every scene, even got a sticker scene here. Every scene evolves and changes. That's London. Don't try and hang on. Other people say, there's some good stuff here, you know? There was a village. We should hang on to it. These are the bumps here that horses used to use on the towpath to get up the hills as they were pulling their heavy loads. And then there are other people who say there's a certain irony in employing people as placemakers and community builders when there already was a very strong community and a very strong sense of place. And then also say, we've raised the land value here by a fantastic percentage. Where's our share? Some people are happy to move on. I had my time. It was cheap. It was fun. Other people feel a bit used. I don't know what the answers are, but I do know that the arts are the ways for us to express these concerns and for us to have these conversations. So it's a bit of a, look at this, is great. This is, look, it's a soup. Isn't that a delicious soup of stickers and imagery? The walls here are constantly changing. I love it. Every time you come down, you see something different. Some you like, some you don't. It's a bit like the Edinburgh Festival. You take a punt. Some of it you're going to love. Some of it not so much. But that's how we evolve. That's how the good stuff gets out. Up there, it was a studio, and it was rented by someone who would go on to be the world's most famous street artist. Yeah, over there, they do some great carpentry and such like. The German deli was here. Now you can go axe throwing. So if you've got an axe to wield, that's the place to throw it. Contemporary graffiti. And the graffiti acts in a lot of ways like a weather vane. I love it because you go past and you see it's like a live update of, you know, what people are talking about, what's in the ether. White Post Lane. Industrial. It's an aesthetic, isn't it? It's very like Berlin in some ways here. Same issues, same aesthetics. Great Grayson Perry says that the most authentic thing you can have is wood. You see wood cladding on a building is a sign of authenticity. All this stuff being marketed, being reproduced, the signifiers and the signified. This ship is sinking. Edwin, I do believe. He's an interesting fella. This street here has a little bit of significance because I was all set to leave London. I lived in a very dull part of it. People just kind of, it seemed, got up, went to work. Even looked a bit fed up. No one really spoke to each other on the buses or on the street. Didn't seem to have much sense of community. And I had this nagging sense, I knew there was more to life than this. So I thought about moving to Berlin. And then I came here and saw all this. And I was like, wow, subcultures. People trying out different ways of living. People experimenting. And I must admit, I do like the industrial aesthetic myself as well. Over here, a first kiss at a Hackney Wicked. And then off to the cabaret. Good times. See a little bit of yard culture. Rather than a linear tour, I sat down to think about what I could talk about tonight. And I came up with this actually. In the middle. It's messy, like the mycelium, like the rhizome. Big question over there, can we get this good stuff, like finding our tribe, finding solidarity, being social, finding community, all the stuff that art spaces give us. Can we find this online? That's the big question, right? Hackney Wick for me was a portal, as I've said, is a way into ways of being, ways of thinking. It's kind of petri dish, just like East Berlin was. If you go to East Berlin, you'll see that's changing as well. The Mission District, San Francisco, Bushwick in New York, Plagwitz in Leipzig, but they were experimental places. Still are to some extent. Something a bit utopian about it. A place to test out new ideas. And this is where the connection with the environment comes in, because people could test out off-grid technology. You could remake, reuse, and there's some amazing initiatives here, taking waste from the Olympic site and making things out of them, like the Skatepark. And you could find your tribe. You could have a support network, because this, again, it's where it's quieter. This can be a pretty tough city. People like myself, I'm not the only one who said, well, you know what, the whole warehouse thing, it was a big mental health support lifeline, a support network. You could find your feet, you could find your voice. Yeah, I think we know who these guys are, right? Top right corner. And Mr. Orange Face himself there. Oh, nice bit of Uber fubs there. Subdued. And yeah, I'm not sure who this guy is. What a Charlie Uniform November Tango. Uh-huh. So you had communal living. You always had friends. They became your family. This is the yard theatre over here. It's a really interesting spot made with recycled materials from the Olympic Park, where you can have a theatre that's a little bit more, it doesn't have to play safe because they're not paying West End rents. So you can have something a little bit more dangerous. Yeah, you can find your tribe, you can find your voice, get a support network. And it has parallels with the squats in Hackney from the 1970s, which have been credited as being really important as part of the women's movement. Imagine, for example, you're a queer woman in the middle of Wales Well, ironically, actually, some hippie people in London left the city to go to the middle of Wales. But imagine you're feeling quite isolated. You come to London and you find your tribe, and they're welcoming you in. They support you. They nurture you. There's beer behind this shutter. Too bad it's closed. They support you. They help you. And you can evolve. You can try new ideas, gain confidence. This used to be Isocon Plus. It's not just the artists that are being squeezed in East London. It's also indie business. Now, I know this is quite a big established business, but there's a trend in East London as well of businesses moving out. They can't afford the rent. You can check out the East End Trades Guild for more about that. And this is a lovely bit of art here. So, you know, I talked about art as being a way to help us articulate our concerns, to have conversations that are otherwise a little bit difficult. Look at this. We are all a little bit broken. I don't really need to say any more about that, do I? Constant flux. You might say, well, yeah, of course it is, Simon. That's London, that's life. There is no stasis. Everything, you know, things build, things decompose. It's the natural cycle. And I've got a lot of sympathy with that. It is quite hard though when you sit in one of those meetings and you hear some real sort of like, you know, absolute nonsense spouted though. And we need these conversations, right? About what's important to us, about what makes us human, about things like this. It's where Coca-Cola controversially filmed an advert in 2012 for the Olympics. You can maybe just make out the sprinter's arm. So many stories here. This spot has also been a traveller site. It's been a site for Hackney Wick, a stage. There was something utopian, as I mentioned, about all of this. We've got our urban, public works, these guys trying out technologies. You might say, oh yeah, you do that when you're young, don't you? And then, you know, you settle down and you get all sensible. But some of this stuff is mainstream now, or it's coming into the mainstream. Reuse, repurposing. Who now doesn't get the whole concept that, you know, we can't just keep churning out new stuff using up resources. Scaff boards were the thing here back in the day. If you got scaff boards from the Olympic site, there was so much you could do. And over there on the corner was the skate park. The old and here's the new. This is the Bagel Factory on the corner, which used to be a bagel factory. For some reason, this particularly seems to wind people up. The whole like, oh, you've got the Bagel Factory, it's so, you know, trying to be cool, industrial chic. Ah, the Lord Napier. Once a pub, soon to be a pub, apparently. It's been bought finally after a long time, but it has been an amazing squat venue, squat party venue, should I say, in its time. And squats, a lot of people are like, oh, what's the big deal about squatting? So what? People just freeloading it. You'd be amazed how many people that are big in the arts. Maybe you wouldn't, but how many people that are big in the arts, big names, creativity, once squatted. As the containers bring in all the things we'll need for those thousands of new flats from Asia, new televisions, new fridges, one for each little box, new screens, more, more, more. Need to back away here so I can give you the full magnificence of this building, and you can take in the irony. Ada Wild, she was behind the event. She curated the artist event. She was the latest incarnation. Space, you've got Discreet up there, Mighty Mo, Edwin. She'll tell you in no uncertain terms about how annoyed she was when she found out that this image had been used on a brochure to sell real estate property with no artist credit. Check her out, Ada Wild, Princess Power. And for me, these people are so important because they give me the critique which we need right now. We're being fed so much BS. It's so hard to work out where the truth is, what even is truth. We need these people more than ever. People to point out fakeness like she does of Instagram culture. And the traveller community behind that wall over there, you would never know, would you? Here's the border. Tower Hamlets. We're about to go into Hackney. Probably about 10 minutes away now from getting back to Grow Studios. Hopefully in the chat we've got some interesting things, some thoughts on the Facebook as well. Anthony will tell me if I'm going over schedule, I'm sure. Live workspaces, so important in the development of the area. Over here, a creative hub. I'd love to be able to see 10 years into the future here. Because of the economic downturn, whatever you want to call it, the banking crisis, because you've got the old over here, and then we've got the new. Things kind of plateaued for a while. Once for a while, that was the only shop. Look at this guy, that was the only shop. Things plateaued for a while, and then one day, I was walking around here, and I saw literally 3 groups of surveyors with their theodolites. And I was like, things are afoot. Change is coming. Asset panic over there. Maybe you can see that. Another street artist. We've got street art. We've got graph. Different things. Not always the best of friends. This guy doesn't mind. No, look. He's pretty happy at the changes. Yeah, no more burnt out cars. A very different Hackney Wick. And this is an interesting spot here because there are many Hackney Wicks, but this spot here marks a kind of unofficial divide between very different communities. Anyone's got any great ideas to use the arts to bring people together, to make them interface? There's a Hackney Wick's Hollywood sign over there, by the way. So you can see the far distance on top of Oslo House. One of the many old factories here that then became studios. More new flats. Over here, this is an interesting spot, Heritage. This is where the first plastic was synthesized in 1864 by Alexander Parkersine. But it is no more. And if you are someone that loves plastic, and believe me, those people do exist, I've met them, then that was a holy site for you, a shrine. it's important that Hackney Wick does keep some of this stuff, not just for the old guard, not just for the people that have been here a long time, but the people that have bought into this because they've been sold on an idea of an exciting, they always use the word vibrant, don't they? And that's every brochure writer's go-to cliche, a vibrant creative scene. So I hope we can keep some of that for them too. And as well, of course, the arts gives us humor. I've been quite serious, haven't I? But look at that. I love that. The Rona. Don't get the Rona from the 5G. Freeze Books used to be distributed from here. Sorry, Freeze Magazine, Central Books, lovely Victorian warehouse. Over here, Darrow, the factory was here with an amazing tiled mosaic sign. And this site is, it's got a vexed history because under our feet is everything you can imagine that a petrochemical-based Victorian factory town might mix and compose and dump. And sometimes it comes out. Bad smells. Here's Jerry. He once got arrested by East German border guards for painting the Berlin Wall. They had a little hole in the wall, a little door, and they once popped out and arrested them for defacing their anti-fascist barrier. We're nearly back. I hope for the chat there's been enough there to stimulate you. A lot of questions. They do say beware people who are overly certain. I've got all the answers. I know what it is. Arts in the face of change and capitalism. Arts and art spaces in the Corona era. Can we get those things from online? Solidarity, the links that we used to get when we met people in a human space. Personally, I think there are pros and cons, I really do. I had a really powerful talk today with someone online who, when I see her in the office normally, I kind of go in, I'm in and out, I do my job, and I'm gone. And she said, you know, we never have had this chat. We never have connected as intimately as this if it wasn't for online. And now someone in Huddersfield can join an arts discussion at Rich Mix, for example, on a Tuesday afternoon. So it does have its uses. But I will say that my strong memories of this place, the beating heart of Hackney Wick, are always the people and the contacts and the conversations and the way they made you feel, and sometimes the outrageous things that they did. And just before we go in, I'm just going to quickly tell you about this. So it's not just the art for the sake of being creative, but it's the stuff that makes you think. This is called No Time to Waste. And I'll just show you the artist names there. Crafted from over 200 car, scooter, and bike tires. Plastic, fishing nets, all sorts of stuff. We need new paradigms. This building over here, here's the shipping container. Not as eco as you might think, 2.5 tons plus 3.2, it's a big one. I'm doing a project about it. Check out Container Cult on Instagram. Wood, reusable, or certainly, well, these are reusable, but they're not quite as eco as they'd have you think. Eco wood from responsible forestry sources. So ideas here that will permeate the mainstream a little bit later. A place to experiment, a place to try things out, a beautiful sunset, a place to play, a place to maybe invent something, a place to be ahead of your time maybe, a place for all of these things, a place for the humanities, a place for creative enterprise, a place to think a little bit differently. Place maybe even to make art that never sees the light of day, but was very important to your own sense of personal achievement and your own personal journey, because we're all on a journey. I love the stickers, can you tell? They're just like little signals, little messages from other universes. If you've got the time to zoom in and read them, they've got messages for you. Magical. I'm looking forward to hearing what people have got to say. We're heading up on the roof. This is where I got the idea for Container Cult, because I was watching the trains rumble in day after day in Hackney, and nobody paid them any attention. I started to wonder, what's inside those things? It turns out 90% of our stuff is inside those things. Isn't that a great view? 90% of our stuff comes in a container. Nobody even looks. The uniform on the outside, inside, anything could be happening. It's a little bit like the buildings here, actually. Inside, anything could be happening. Who knows? Hackney Wick, art, politics, planning, urban regeneration, housing, capitalism, why we're here, aesthetics, philosophy, and some geezer called Hackney Tours having a bit of a ramble. I think it must be time to bring in somebody else. Thank you for your attention. I believe we have a couple of interesting people lined up who are going to give you their view on some of the things I've talked about tonight.
Yes, Simon, greetings. Thank you so much for the last hour or so. We've got some great feedback in the comments. We've got Sam Jones saying this is brilliant. Fabricio Mendez, we want to thank you so much for donating.
Hello, Fabricio.
Yeah, and also Steve Wilson is saying amazing history, dude. Thank you.
That's great, excellent. Well, I mean, this is just the kind of, it's a primer really. There's so much to talk about. You could just go around here for, well, I have for 10 years. But if people are interested, I always think, you know, it's great. It's great to sort of do something that leads to other things. A lot of this stuff you can find out on the internet, or you can go to the archives, or you can just come down here, spend your money locally, shop local, and you get the best stuff, you know, by hanging out with people in bars and cafes and chatting to them. And that's when they tell you the really good stuff, you know, like the fact that this is actually an Illuminati bunker here on the roof of Grow. No, it's not. Is it? No, it's not. But yeah, come on down the Wick, guys. Everyone's really friendly as well. There is, you know, I know somebody say, oh, it's Hackney Wick, it's not what it was. I still get excited when I come here. I still love it. And I still find lots of really interesting people doing really interesting stuff. And I believe it's about time to hear from some of those interesting people.
Yes, we've got Zwan Sinden, local artist and big part of the family at Grow, long-time worker and contributor to the cause. Zwan, can you hear me?
Hello, yes, can you hear loud and clear? Can you hear me?
Very well, very well.
Yeah. Okay, good. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. It's nice to be here with Grow and the Hackney Tours.
Thanks, man. It's good to, I'm really looking forward to hearing what you've got to say. And if I tell you that I have a badge on my cap that says war is illegal, I think we know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Repping. War is illegal all day.
Yes, Simon, if you wouldn't mind just switching the camera over so we can see the man behind the tour.
Hmm. Sure.
Hello.
I'm going to sit on this wall and then endeavor not to fall off. That's good. Great. So, yeah, where's my little... Here it is.
Yes.
This is by Mai, who's a little bit of a local legend. But she's not here with us tonight. So, Juan, why don't you tell us what your thoughts or what are your reactions to what we've talked about? What do you think
I think you
about
said
the week?
a lot of things that were very accurate in terms of the way the community is very close to, and there's lots of unity, and we all kind of we have the platform to do what we need to do, and to do what, as artists, sometimes you don't have a white cube space, or there's not many opportunities, but in Hackney Wick, anything is possible. Loads of art can flourish, and we all work together to make that happen.
Do you want to say something about your own practice and
So,
maybe...
I'm a multimedia artist. Um, I started off painting, that was my original practice, and then I explored projections, video work, and sound all at the same time. So I've always been one of the people that kind of don't like to stick in one place, and I jump around and kind of like to try new things always. Um, so going to uni was quite a thing, because it felt like you were being put into a box, and I think you're amongst loads of other students all doing their own thing, and tutors push you to conceptualize, which is great. But I always found it difficult at uni. But in the back of my mind, I always knew about how Hackney Wick was there for me as an artist, and I always had the opportunity to be able to like put on small shows in small outdoor spaces, or in warehouses, or wherever it may be, and it was reassuring to have that comfort and that sort of freedom, basically, more than anything. Um,
That sounds to me like a classic Hackney Wick artist story. The idea that in a way it's almost like an unofficial art school, right? But it's freer than an art school.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, apart from the rent, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, I don't know if you want to say something about that, because this is, I mean, so many times when I boil things down, conversations, people come back to two things, and that's rent space, and ownership of. What are your thoughts on that?
well, I feel like you said something amazing about living workspaces, and if you need that, that's what you need. And if you were sharing a flat with, say, four other people for the same price as having your own quite larger unit with more space and more, and with other creative people as well who understand what you do and understand that you have to spend time on your practice, and you can make a bit of a mess, you know. So
Mm.
yeah, I think having this live workspace opportunity is great, but obviously the prices are going up all over London. It's not just Hackney Wick, so it's not exempt from from the whole country, the whole city, sorry, becoming more and more expensive.
Mm. And what's your relationship to like the space of Hackney Wick? Because I know you could come here and you could say, oh my God, this is like, sort of, you've got factories, you've got scrap metal, it's like concrete, it's got clouds of dust, it's really intense. And yet, when I think of it, it's always with massive affection and love. What's your relationship to Hackney Wick and the space?
Oh well, Hackney Wick always has been a place where doors were open, and it's a beautiful place. And I mean, you were saying that there's warehouses, but these warehouses are what open uh, loads of opportunities for the artists. So I guess when the artists came in what, the 70s, and since then it's been a place of creation and creativity. But
Mm.
I mean,
And do you think,
similarly to Shoreditch, I guess, back in, back in the days also, which has also changed loads, which is why it's such a shame to see the um, the change in Hackney Wick in the most recent years.
yeah, I mean, I know some people would say, yeah, there are very different views on how Hackney Wick might go. One of the more dystopian ones is that, yeah, it just becomes the place where everyone just, people work 12-hour days in sort of, jobs that leave them no room to. It's going to be dry. It's going to lose its creativity. It'll be a place that people just come on the train to get
I don't.
absolutely hammered in and urinate in the street.
It's still such a dense place of community, and that community spirit is what makes Hackney Wick what it is. It's not just the artists. Everyone always speaks of the artists and the creatives, but it's that sense of unity and togetherness that has
Mm.
always held Hackney Wick so like highly in my heart. And like you were talking about Berlin, and it's true. I haven't found a place in the world like Hackney Wick, and having it so close to my home from a young age has definitely changed me as a creative in so many ways. And yeah, like I said, the contrast of university at the same time as working in Hackney Wick was very like was very it was a very big contrast, and it
That's
kind
good
of
to hear because I did talk
big
about a sort of an
juxtaposition
invisible
for me.
barrier, but
Mm.
yeah. So what was that last thing?
It
Sorry,
was a
about
big
evolution.
juxtaposition, and I had to kind of take everything my tutor said with a pinch of salt, because here in Hackney Wick, there's a lot more I can do, and my mind, the possibilities were endless, and that's what made it what it was for me.
See, I love conversations like this because that you're just inspiring me there, and especially some of the stuff we see here, the comments on the planet, on the way, the nature of the city we live in, what London is, and you can get very negative and downbeat, and
I
then
couldn't
I
imagine
hear
London.
like the next wave of young artists like yourself talking, and I'm like, hey, you know what? There's some good stuff coming through.
I can't imagine London without Hackney Wick, basically, and I can't imagine my life without Hackney Wick. So, I mean, a spawning ground for so many people, and not just me, and so many people that they all know each other, and feel like everyone that comes into Hackney Witch recognizes that community spirit and recognizes that we're all here together, and it's not like any other part of London, and we're here, we work together, we play together, we have fun together, and it's great. It's a great place.
Fantastic. I knew when they said he would be having on, I'd be like, oh yeah, I know he'll have some good things to say. Um, and it's good to hear that, from street level. It's inspiring, and yeah, it's good, man. So I don't know unless you've kind of got any questions or any burning things to say. You've spoken uh, eloquently about the wonder that is the Wick. Unless you've got anything that you're really dying to say, we might hand over to Jordana. But any last thoughts?
Well, just to encourage everyone to keep creating and working with the community and kind of fighting against the money that's coming in, and not fighting against it, but working with it in the best way, and remembering
Yeah.
where we came from and how it always was, when people first moved into Wick.
Oh man, you should have done this tour. I would have loved to, man. If you ever do a tour, I'd
Uh,
love to hear your version
you're
because,
great at it. That's yours.
well, I'm a kind of, I just, I'm kind of, I guess I'm like a conduit because in Hackney, when I go around, I do other stuff. I do like social enterprise and change maker tours as well. Because I was looking at the national stage, the news, and it's so depressing. It's so cynical, and it's just like money and power. And then I was like, wow, man! I go around Hackney and I just meet amazing people. They've got loads of incredible things to say. They're full of energy. They're not waiting for like the government to come and save us, as if they're out there doing it. They're making it every day. And I was like, I want to celebrate these people and kind of be a conduit for their voices. So yeah, I want to thank you for being part of this evening. I
Thank
wish
you.
you the best of luck with your
Thank you.
art, and you've got to let us know when you're doing something. You've got a show or something like that when the
So
time is right.
we
Post.
actually do. Me and a colleague, Patricia, and Joel Smith. We've been doing an audiovisual art event at Grove for the past 2 years. It's called Sense, And we've invited loads of people from the local community to do talks and run workshops and show their work, whether it be sound or video or both together. And so now, since the Corona times, we have to try to adapt and move our platform to be online. So we're going to do our first online show on the 8th of September at 7:30 on Grow at Home's Grow's page.
Yeah, great. Such a great Grow is such a great place to experiment. Do you have a social media handle or a website for people, or should people look at the Grow website?
Look at the Grow website for Sense. For Sense on the 8th of September on Grow at Home, and my name is Swan, Xuan, Sinden, Sinden, and you write that on Google or write that on Instagram or whatever.
Swan Sinden.
If you'd like to hear more, if any artists want to submit to show their work for Sense, please do as well. That would be great.
Oh, fantastic! There you go. Open call. We're actually facilitating the creation of art as we speak.
At the moment for the next one.
Oh man, fantastic! Yeah, back in the day, Grow, but pre-COVID, people like a guy called Gerald dropping in and doing an all-day set.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah. That was a great.
Amazing. Yeah, man. Hey, well, listen, thank you so much. I look forward to that 8th September. Put it in your diary at Sense at Grow, and I believe we're going to hear from Jordana now.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers, man. Thank you very much.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm going to take off my new normal equipment that we now need to wear at Grow because I'm sat on my own. I'm okay, and I might be joined by Pete at any point. He's just doing some work upstairs, but he can join me and we can sit together, no problem, because where I'm sat at the moment is I'm sat on the stage at Grow, because now the stage is a completely different setup. We've got a little office. We've got all our music equipment. I might just try and turn my camera around. So we've got all the equipment. We've got the new normal for Grow, which means that we haven't actually got any live music events tonight, but we are operating as a bar and kitchen. So if we're talking about transition and change, we are right in the thick of it. So we're really pleased to be working with you on this event, Simon, obviously Swan, thank you very much. So yeah, here I am sat at Grow at the moment, and yeah, it was a great tour. It was a good whistle-stop tour of seeing everything in Hackney Wick that's been changing so much, and we really feel here at Grow we're right in the thick of it. You know, we have been in our own little bubble. We're responding to the changes that happen every day. You walked literally through a lot of them. In the back of your view at the moment, Simon, we can see the development there, the train station. All these things are changing, and like you say, it's you know, there's two sides to every story, and yeah, we respond to the changes as they happen, including COVID-19. But yes, Hackney Wick has always been a place for community in collaboration, and Grow was founded on those principles. Not many people know this, but they didn't before, but they will now. They've been on your tour. It's actually studios primarily, and there's been over hundreds of artists over the years that have used that base as their playground, as you say, and a space to develop their practice. One of the things one of the co-founders says, Ruben Jacobs, he always talks about that opportunity for artists at the beginning of their career, how important it is to provide a space to practice, to grow, and then as you can make more of a living for an artist, which isn't always possible, but at least you need that opportunity, that space to be able to grow your practice. So the studios have been there for over 12 years. The founders have been in Hackney Wick a lot longer and would know a lot of the changes that you discussed there, Simon. But Grow's actually been open for 6 years, and obviously we've completely transformed the space in the last 4 months, given our current situation. So we're currently facing that, but yeah, it's been interesting. Obviously, Simon, I know you through kind of our shared interest in leisure as a commodity, and Grow, as part of my art practice, was always to try and challenge leisure as a commodity. And you talk about art practice not just being painting and that sort of thing. For me and many people that co-create this space, we're absolutely trying to create an experience where you can escape the spectacle, escape the freight trains, which I can see so clearly trundling past you and be free for a moment, because that intense pressure that we're all under, whether you're artists, working in any industry, the world has become a capitalist neoliberal nightmare, and that is what Grow is here to challenge, to show that actually we can operate in a different way if we choose, and the mental health benefit doing so is extensive. So yeah, I don't know if you have any particular questions about where we are now, how we're going to face 2020, or anything to do with, you know, particularly the art that we have at Grow and art and live music. Oh, sorry, Simon, I can't hear you. You might need to unmute.
Sorry, that yeah. So the diesel was diesel engine accelerating, very dramatic, but it would have drowned you out. Yeah. I guess I mean, one of the things I learned from Hackney Wick, a great thing I took away is, this is going to sound really naive and really stupid, I know, but I didn't realize how much work went into art. I didn't realize how important that people like that hold space, like studio providers, were in creating the conditions in the ecosystem, which is, I know it's a phrase we hear a lot, but it really is like, it's a very specific set of conditions. So maybe you could say something, and then the journey that the artists go on, and it's kind of like, you know, some people go, oh, art's so self-indulgent, isn't it? And then I met people that spent 12 hours a day in a freezing cold, tiny cell at the top of a building all day to make art that might not even, you know, see the light of day, because it was so important to them. And I don't know, maybe you want to say something about, I mean, I think we realize now we can't take our venues for granted, right?
Well, absolutely, and thank you very much for pointing that out. I mean, on the point of being, I think my view is that given the conditions and creating the conditions, everybody can be free to create. It's essentially a language. It's an expression. So however
I just think we've just lost Jordana. Simon, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Okay, well, hopefully we'll get her back shortly. I know she was going to talk about how tough it is for music venues, arts venues, all these people that are like, you know, they've got phenomenal rents to pay. And here's the thing with property is that, you know, you rent out a property to someone, they do loads of work, they put loads of value on it, they make it nice, and then at some point you come back and say, right, cheers, lease is over, thanks for that. And yeah, landlordism, it's one of the things that doesn't always get an airing, but it's a really big thing, you know. We've got all those people living on the water here in the canal boats, but some of the biggest sharks you find on land. Are you back, Jordana? I heard a beep there. So Jordana was,
yeah, sorry,
I think she was going to tell us about
mid-chat, I'm going to have to...
Okay, she's back now.
Oh, she's back, great. Yeah, Jordana, so actually you missed a little interlude there where I briefly railed against the phenomenon of landlordism and how hard venues have to work just to survive. And now we have the added pressure of COVID.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
I tried to have better technical, and I refused it, and now I paid the price for this. Sorry about that. So yeah, for COVID, yeah, I mean, this is another threat to the arts and live music. Of course, we are a live music venue as well, so we want to make sure that the musicians are given credit as well for what we do here. But yeah, this is a challenge. The arts was already under threat, obviously through gentrification, and also sustained kind of reduction of how important it actually is to have an art in the curriculum, that sort of thing. So now we're all sort of trying to find a way through, but I have to say organisations like the Music Venue Trust have been very supportive to us, and many organisations. And as a body, we need to kind of communicate to the government and to customers as well. We absolutely need your support to keep going. If we don't have your many venues will unfortunately cease to trade through the winter. It is that serious. I don't think you meet many people that run an art and music space for the money, and that's certainly, you know, you don't meet them very often. I certainly haven't met one. And we all do it because we love it, and that makes it feel like perhaps that value and that kind of challenge of running it isn't as sort of intense as it is. So we need to get through this year together, and we need to support artists, we need to support musicians, we need to see it as a fundamental part of the economy also, as well as well-being, and support each other and understand that things have changed a bit, but during that period everyone will do their best to try and keep going, but keep coming to the local music and art venues where you can, support online, and also just advocate, try and tell people that how much art and music means to them, how much we need to support us into 2021.
And also possibly we need to like sort of reevaluate our priorities, right? One of my pet things is, you know, people pay £10 for a cocktail and then they want a lifetime's worth of art and practice to be delivered for free because it's art. And yet in some ways this is what makes us human, is the most important stuff that we do, you know. So I wonder if we have to kind of really sort of stop taking the arts for granted and, you know, dig a little bit deeper and start paying for stuff that is really important to us as human beings.
Yeah, I think it's but twofold. It's absolutely seeing kind of the infrastructure of providing spaces and the ability and teaching and sharing, as well as also people embracing the art and artists in themselves. You know, it's kind of it's twofold. You have to appreciate both sides as well as what you're capable of yourself.
Yeah. Is there, I mean, while we're on and while we're here, is there anything you'd like particularly like people to know, or any events coming up that you'd particularly like people to get involved with? I mean, personally, I love the reggae nights. I really enjoy those. And, you know, we had Normski. That was a good night when we bumped into Normski. He was there for the music. That was a lot of fun. And also the supper club as well. And you always bump into someone really interesting and you're guaranteed a good conversation and also some good music in what is a fascinating venue. And I'll be bringing people to Grow as part of Open House this year. But is there anything you want to point people to, either project-wise or event-wise, or just something you want people to go home and think about?
Thank you for the opportunity to think about that. I mean, check our website for the events. We've got the Grow at Home series. We have got some live music. We've got jazz on a Wednesday now. We've got Cora playing, you know, at the end of the month. We're having very limited live music events because it is quite difficult and challenging now. But I'd also just like to finish on the fact that one of the most important things about what we're doing is we're an ethical and sustainable business. We use eco-electricity, we pay London living wage, we source ethically, we use eco-products. We've taken, from the beginning, we've done that. And that has been a huge financial commitment. But part of also art being a human right. So the work, you know, planet and being financially sustainable, you know, as important, equally, if not more so in some cases, in the sort of threat we're under now. So I think, yeah, it's looking at things in a holistic way and just making sure that we keep communicating the importance of these things.
Yeah, art as a human right, it's an interesting idea, isn't it? And it's a powerful idea. Post-COVID, during the COVID thing, we've seen some businesses that have treated their clients or their staff very unethically. And where you spend your money, I mean, some people say it's one of the few powers we've got, is where, you know, we vote with our feet. And there are people who are just kind of, you know, I'll set up a business, I'll just absolutely, you know, flog this place, rinse this place for as much as I can get, and then out of here in 2 years. And then, for example, Grow, Stour are really my Hackney Wick touchstones. Of course, there are other people doing really good stuff as well, but, you know, yeah, suss them out, find out what their story is, and spend your money with people that are doing good things and are fostering art, fostering community, and fostering, as you said, the ecosystem where people can explore ideas and things that maybe will be the future for all of us. So, Jordana, unless you've got anything you particularly want to add to that, I'll thank you very much for making this happen. You and the team. Pete, Ruben, everyone, Anthony behind the scenes, David, all the other guys, the bar staff as well, who are always like super friendly, and tip them. Yeah, they've had a hard time as well. And we'll move on to the Q&A. And thank you very much for making this happen with Grow Hackney.
Yes, thank you, Simon. Thank you again. Thank you, Jordana. Thank you all. Been an incredible tour. We've got a question. Our first question from Caro. She should be there. Caro, if you can hear me, if you just unmute yourself and speak to Simon whenever you're ready.
I think I'm unmuted already.
Oh
I
yeah,
think you can
hello.
hear me, can't you?
Hello.
Hello there. So I just wanted to know, because I heard creative there saying Hackney Wick is special, and I agree. So I'm from Brixton, and I've seen what's happened to Brixton, Peckham, and Deptford's going the same way. How can Grow remain a community once they move? Because my understanding from Pete, who I went to art school with, is that you're going to move into new premises, Grow. So how are you going to maintain that community feel? Because it's very hard, because you're very much part of the fabric there. But once you're in a shiny new building, how do you keep the same vibe that you've got at the moment?
Well, don't mute yourself, because I'm working with Grow. I'm not of Grow. I just want to say something quickly, but then I'd like to hear more from you about that, because it's very interesting to hear you make those comparisons. I just wanted to quickly say that I went to a talk about the guy that filmed The Secret History of Our Streets, and then it was sort of like slightly off tangent. He said, I think one of the biggest things in the 20th century for working class people in London was the pulling down of what they called slums, and then the dispersal of people into new towns and the breakup of the extended family. And he said, I think that destruction of community is something we're still paying the social price for today. And it's a good point when people are scattered, like for example on the Olympic site you had the Clays Lane estate. That was a community. Not many people even know that there was an estate on the Olympic site. That was a supportive community, and then they were scattered to the winds, a bit like you have the people from some of the estates of London that get redeveloped, and then they find themselves, maybe a single parent family, they find themselves on the south coast, like where they know absolutely nobody. Yeah, it's an issue. What are your thoughts? Because you've obviously seen both places.
Well, and also Haygate, because I live in social housing. I've lived in social housing all my life. So I've seen what Southwark have done. So I'm in Southwark currently, but I'm from Lambeth, Myattsfield. And I've seen Myattsfield North disappear. It's now called Oval Quarter. Haygate, of course, is now called Elephant Park. Half of Aylesbury is gone. With that, as you said, community have gone all over the UK, if not all over the world. So you have nice, very tall buildings in its place with no character whatsoever, because it is a class issue as well as a race issue, because people are scattered all over, because you will not get a proper social rent or creative spaces as you have with those which have gone. Haygate, you had so many creatives. I'm a creative myself and was in free and open source software. And you would have any amount of social enterprise in the garages or the flats themselves. That now doesn't exist on Haygate. And I go through Haygate nearly every day just to go to Burgess Park. And then you see it goes. And so where are the creatives? Because to my knowledge, being moved out of London, and it's kind of like Hackney Wick is the last bastion in London. Simple as that. You know, Deptford's shocking. You go to Deptford and you just see Michelin star restaurants popping up now. And you think this is, and you see the Vietnamese community squeezed off the high street. So I'm just wanting to know, you know, Hackney Wick, what are you going to do? Because we keep on seeing this, don't we? Because truly, capitalism doesn't want working class and particularly creatives in zone 1 and 2. That's too much now. We're taking up space. We need to be moved out. We're not earning enough money. Because like Brixton theme park, it's the most painful thing now to go through Brixton. What is Granville Arcade still? And then it's just food, bare food, overpriced with no taste. And, you know, so what have you got the working class people doing? Protection. You've got them in uniforms, standing there. And you know they're old Brixton because you can see it written on their face, the pain of it. But, you know, they've got to pay the inflated rent, so they have to stand there just killing teeth. And it's like shocking. It's painful. And yet there is to be a new cultural quarter in the heart of Brixton, you know, near the prison blocks. So you just think, well, who's London for?
Well, yeah, that's the question I've asked myself on a lot of tours. Funny enough, I was thinking exactly of the Haygate. I think Anna Minton, ground control, she did a map. There was a dispersal map of where people have ended up from the Haygate. I think it was her, and it's like a massive starburst covering all of the southeast. And you're like, wow, what are the mental health consequences of being separated from your community and ending up in a place where you have no contacts? And you're alluding there also to the idea of the Paris donut, which is the idea, if you know Paris, there's the inner circle, which is quite expensive, and then there's where 2 million people, and then 9 million people are on the outside bit. And of course, one of London's, whatever you think about the city, great things traditionally has been that people live cheek by jowl. You have rich and poor in the same area, in the same street, and maybe we don't want to be living in a sort of place where there's a rich centre, and then everyone else is kind of pushed to the outside. So yeah, there's some really interesting meaty points in there, and if people want to know more about what you're talking about, they can look into the market at Seven Sisters, they can look into the shopping centre in Elephant and Castle, Anti University, and of course anything written by Anna Minton on ground control or Big Capital, who is London for. Yeah,
I would give a shout out to 35% campaign and Latin Elephant about the fight for and also Black Cowboy as well, for the African Caribbean perspective on Elephant and Castle, because another nice little trick is that of colonizers is the divide, rule and conquer, so that they try to play Latin Elephant off against everybody else who isn't Latinx basically. But we see what you're about, and it's a case of 35% taking legal action, because you kind of got to hang on with your fingernails. But isn't there a case, there's a couple of things which always keep on coming back. When creatives are in a place, does that put up the value of properties? And the same with greening. If you've got some nice greening projects, you can be sure the developers get their eye into it. Anytime developers want to give you money for something, you know that's a death knell. Same with Brixton, Peckham. Once the developers come along and say, here's some money, do me some artworks, let's do some community engagement. Placemaking is always a nice one, isn't it? So it's a case of when they're giving you money, look at that. Look at Tate. Look at Tate. Dodgy beginnings and so on. That Shell had to get, it was art activism which got Shell out of sponsoring the Tate. But with these creative spaces in Hackney and all over, how can the artists then be more resilient? How can the artists, creatives, work with the local communities to have a real voice? Because once you do that separation, it seems, my humble opinion, that's when the developers start splashing the cash and going, oh, we see a little crack there, let's give some dosh to them people there, so that they're not going to support the artists when they want to put luxury flats on art studios. So
listen, go on.
No, I'm just saying that just know who to talk to, who to do stuff with, really.
Yeah, I want to bring in some other voices, but I can tell you obviously you've been around the block and you know the tricks and you've seen the stuff, and you can check this out also with the railway arches in Hackney, what's happening there, and the things if they get 5% to sign up, and then you go into the neighbour and you say, oh, everyone else has signed up for this, and I know exactly the stuff that you're talking about. In Los Angeles, in some places, they've actually started attacking galleries when they open, saying, because if they say that's how it starts, it's the gallery, then your neighborhood goes. I will just say, because this is a debate, the artist is gentrifier, I will just say in defense of artists that, they're not a unified, homogenous group, and some of them know what's going on and are okay with it. Some of them know what's going on and are like, well, what choice have I got? Like, I've got to survive. Do you take that Section 106 money and make the art, or do you not make the art? And then also some of them are literally like, I'm just an artist, I just want to make art. And in the same way that there are people in all jobs and walks of life who are apolitical and that's not their thing, there are artists who are just like, I just want to make art. Can I not have to? And we're all complicit. This is what sometimes people who do critique artists in that roles forget, is that if you rent or buy property in London, if you consume, then we're all implicated in the system to some extent. But you raised some really good points, and hopefully anyone who's watching who wants to know more can look up some of the things that you've mentioned. And if you're ever down in Grow, or want to sort of like add something to the debate, the hashtag is hashtag Grow Hackney Tours. I'd love to hear more about what you're plugged into, because these are really important conversations to be had, really important. And maybe you might want to check out Anti-University as well, which is another forum where you might even want to share what you've learned with other people. Each one teach one. But
Yeah,
thank you so
totally.
much. I wonder if we've got anyone else that wants to say something. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a quality contribution.
Thank you so much, Carol. That needed to be said, and because not many people are touching on. Well, I mean, it's a big topic of conversation in Hackney Wick, which is great, but we need to speak about it more, because without unity, it will disintegrate, and there's no.
Yeah.
There will be no. It will be very difficult for us to stick together, but. Which is why I talked a lot about the community spirit, because I know that from what I know of Hackney Wick, and I know that everyone is like-minded, and they do have the power together. It does seem like a losing battle, and the whole idea of a Parisian circle, banlieue sort of way of living in London seems so scary to me, and I've had that same thought, Simon, as well. How it seems everyone's being pushed to the outskirts.
Yeah.
But I've seen it all over London. I grew up in Bethnal Green. For 26 years now, I've lived in Tower Hamlets. Now I live in Limehouse, and you're seeing it everywhere, all over London, and it's really sad. It's very, 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 very sad. And you're asking all the right questions, Carol, and you need to keep pushing that. We need to keep pushing that all together. And who do we speak to is the good question, and that's the hardest part of it all, I think. Hackney Wick itself has changed so much since I've known it, and what I've been going there for about coming up to 10 years. And the first thing that brought me to Hackney Wick was a party at the Lord Napier that you were showing, Simon, when I was.
I won't ask too many questions about that.
A young man, yeah, and so it was just this place where people could express themselves and be themselves, and then, I mean. There were no flats really apart from the Trowbridge estate, and it seems like everyone got on okay, but then it was when the development came in and the money came in, and that's when everything changed in a sour way, I think, for everyone, not just the local people, the people who've lived there their whole lives, and also for the artists who live locally for 20, 10 years, even 5 years, people. But and then, like you said about the Olympic Park as well, and that was just horrific for the people who lived in those parts, in those places. They really got shit on. Sorry for swearing, but they got the worst deal, And it was, so Hackney Wick's, it's difficult to say, but I'm glad you said everything you said, and it's something that we do need to continue to speak about and fight if we can in any way. But. Like you said, the artists always move, and it puts it in a sticky place for an artist or for a creative person, because I guess they just want to create, like you said, Simon, and I think creative people will always have to go somewhere, and they will find their ground wherever it may be, and it was amazing. It's amazing to have a place like Hackney Wick, and let's hold on. Somehow, let's stick together. More events on that, Jordana.
I think it's a good point, that the unity thing, and the great thing about these spaces is everyone can come in. I was at an event at one art space not so long ago, and I looked at pre-COVID, obviously. I looked around and I could see some of the real old guards, some of the old faces that I know and love from around here, but I could see new residents as well, and I was like, great, because they want to live somewhere exciting and interesting as well, And so those spaces are like they provide social glue. What we don't want is stratified bars where like this is an exclusive uber cool bar that's very like, you know, London can be very stratified. You could be in somewhere where you look around and everyone is within 5 years of your age, and the demographic is so specific. And we need these places to act as social glue and to share ideas and to help people come together, as you say.
Open
Yeah.
spaces, like you said, yeah, really open spaces, places where people can walk in and out, and you know, art shouldn't be paid for in certain ways. I believe, like in terms of social art, like because I put on a audio visual or immersive works of art, and I feel like they should always be shown for free for some reason. I feel like because it's a feeling, you know, and I find it hard to put a price on a feeling and an emotion and a sense.
Yeah.
You know? But although I would love to sell my work more, especially my paintings and the physical works and the installations. But
It's a big debate because money just changed the dynamic, and yet, like if the people that are going to make this stuff, if they're going to live in London, if like or live anywhere, artists have to pay the rent too, and they have to eat.
it's true. Yeah.
It's a tricky one. I don't think we're going to solve it tonight. It's quite a
Yeah.
big question, isn't it?
Yes.
I wonder, Anthony, do we have anyone else that's got it? Well, that was a quality contribution. That was great from Carol. I wonder if you've got anyone else that wants to say something.
Well, I'm happy to say a few words, and also if anybody else in the chat wants to contribute, please feel free to get them involved. But thanks, Carol. Pete was here. He did wave, but then he got called off because he's managing tonight. So sorry about that. But yeah, you talked about how does a space like Grow move, and it's also something that I think any art music venue gives some thought to, where you have security, where you don't have security of tenure for many years to come. And I've given it a lot of thought, and I've thought, how do we pick something up and plop it down? And the truth is, I don't think we can, and I don't think we should, because a place is sort of grown out of like an oak tree. You know, it's an acorn's got everything it needs already. It just needs the right conditions, and it will do its thing. And I think it is such a unique place. There's many unique places, and I think wherever we might go in the future, we have to look at the community there and reach out and try and kind of get that essence, because there wasn't a strategy with Grow. It was DIY. It's the ethos that we like, you know, let's get everyone together. I think what you said, Simon, about, you know, all sorts of ages, and when we're at Grow, I love looking at the breadth of people within the space that are all sort of hanging out together. And, you know, a compliment to me is someone walking in and saying, I never know what I'm going to get at Grow. And I'm like, good. And I think you have to kind of respond to where you are. So I wouldn't want to plonk myself anywhere and say, you know, this is what it's going to be. But there needs to be space, and this grassroots argument, there's a lot of grassroots word banded around. You know, we love grassroots, but people need to understand what grassroots is. It's literally a metaphor for nature, and you can't fake nature. But yeah, I hear everything you say, Carol, and you know, perhaps I should finish on that from Grow's perspective. You know, it is about creating conditions for Grow, whether it's economics, whether it's nurturing people, whether it's mental health, whether it's just having a bloody good chat, because you just need to talk to somebody about something or nothing. You know, that is creating space, and it's really important. But yeah, I mean, one thing that we have got, and this has really inspired me, we've got 2 more online sessions about ethical economics and sustainability. My fear with places like Grow not being open and not very accessible, because we can't fit people in anymore, because we have to fit people outside. We can't congregate, we can't huddle, and we shouldn't be either, and we're taking COVID-19 very seriously. So in the meantime, how do we huddle? How do we congregate? And, you know, a programme where we can chat online and connect. You know, obviously it's not perfect. I'd rather be hugging and chatting in person, but obviously just sharing online is really vital to kind of to keep collaborating and even just sort of looking after ourselves.
Right. Well, that train's quite noisy. I don't know if you can hear it. It's going past. I think that might be a really good way to kind of wrap it up because everyone's spoken really well. We've covered a lot. It's been said well. We've had some fantastic contributions. So perhaps this is a good way to kind of thank everyone for their energy and their involvement, and to maybe look forward to channeling our energy towards positive things, creative things, and you know, like Swan said, being hopeful and being positive, having unity, and making more art and being creative.